Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Business Builder Podcast. We have in the studio with us our man from Liverpool, David Hughes from CMIT Solutions. Good morning, David. How are you?
Morning.
Um, so yeah, we have to go there, right? The Liverpool connection,
Yeah.
right? Home of the Beatles. And we talked before about it, but I just got to throw it out there because it is interesting, man. It's like obviously it's a conversation starter. Um, how long or when was it that you were like, "Wait, I am from the hometown of the Beatles," and it became a thing you could kinda use in conversation?
So so growing up, like grew up on listening to the vinyl records
Oh,
of
yeah,
my
yeah.
parents, but then it wasn't until I'd moved away to college and then going back and taking friends back and things like that to Liverpool. It was doing the touristy things, doing and seeing all the sights, and
Yeah.
it was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like hanging around on Penny Lane and
Yeah.
going to Strawberry Fields. Didn't really appreciate it
Yeah.
until you kind of stepped away and then went back. Yeah.
Yeah, when and then where'd you go to college?
Small town called Middlesbrough.
Okay.
So Liverpool's in the northwest of England. I went to Middlesbrough's kind of northeast,
Alright.
halfway Newcastle, York.
So how far away is that from where you were?
From Liverpool, it was about 2.5 hour drive.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So not crazy far, but far enough.
No, and it's coast to coast.
Okay.
So you think coast to coast in the States, it'd
Yeah,
take you
yeah.
a few days. It took me 2.5 hours to get
Right.
west coast to east coast.
Yeah, that's the thing with the small islands.
Yeah.
Like Sicily's like that. You could drive across the whole thing in like 2 hours. And it's like, oh, I'm on the west side. Oh, then go in the morning. You have like a cappuccino on the east side, and then go watch the sunset on the west side.
Yeah.
um, well, thanks for that, man. Again, like that's good. I don't know how many people know that, but it's like they're gonna know now. So be ready for some
Home of
questions.
the Beatles. Yeah.
So Beatles fan.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to put this to rest, right? I know we did it before, but it's like Beatles or Stones. You got it. Who you pick?
Definitely Beatles.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's hard for me, man. I mean, because I like them both, and so it's a hard thing for me. But I will say this: I've gotten in arguments with people with this before. I said, look, if the Beatles influenced everybody and everything that came after them, whether people want to admit it or not. I think it's just too much. They had what they did, the scope of what they did, the influence that they had. They influenced every single person
Mm.
and act that came after them, whether those people knew it or not.
Yeah.
And I had friends that are like, "Oh, man," it's like I was like, "No, there's no you can't compare the Doors to the Beatles. I'm sorry. You
Just
just
yeah.
you can't."
Huge impact and far still to this
Yeah,
day.
they're
Yeah.
still selling,
Yeah.
you know? Look, Ringo's still on tou Paul still tours. Paul and Ringo are still touring,
Yeah.
you know? Anyway, so here we go. First question, the origin story. When did you get involved in this business, and what was the reason behind it?
So almost fell into the world of IT. I was a teacher. So going back even further, my degree is in sports science.
Mhm,
Um, and then I worked around a couple of soccer clubs in in the UK,
right,
and then went into teaching. So throughout all of those roles, I had there was an element of IT,
right,
using technology, whether that was like biomechanics and performance analytics with sports science, or just moving into teaching elements of IT and using technology, developing IT curriculums for students and things like that. And then when we moved over to the States, um, started supporting a now business partner with his business as IT.
right. So, excuse me, that early IT curriculums, what were they like?
So there was a kind of shift. So when I was in high school, we had a computer suite, but there was no internet, no email, that kind
Right,
of
right.
thing. So
I remember those days.
yeah, and it was all very much typing skills and word processing. And with regards to infrastructure, it was a computer and a printer. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all you had.
yeah. You're lucky
Um,
if you got to print anything.
I remember being told when I arrived at college to go sign up for an email. I was like, "What is that? What do I need to do?"
What's that?
So then, like, obviously, using university the intranet, so it was all
Right.
internal networks, and
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
using the web and all that kind of stuff. So the kind of evolved with it. So my skills and knowledge kind of from nothing up to kind of where we are today.
That's 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 interesting, man, because I remember, for those of us who were old enough to be born where there was no internet, and then it kind of came around when we were, and for me, it was in my 20s, I guess. And the first thing I did was download tab music so I could learn how to play guitar. I mean, I could
Yeah.
play some stuff, but it was like, oh, now I can get the songs that I like and see the chord structure and figure out how to do that. I
Hmm.
was like, and this is before YouTube and before like video content was a huge thing. It was like all like just text documents. Remember like all the bulletin boards and this and that. You had to like, so yeah, it's so the evolution of where it started, and if you were there at the ground floor, like doing all this stuff to see where it's at now, and
Hmm.
then to see where it's going to go, especially with AI and the different iterations that are coming along after that, it's like who could have thought that
Yeah.
it was like if you told me, hey man, all those records, all those Beatles and Stones albums, and you were
Just
talking about the Jam and all these,
yeah.
like you're going to have all of that onto a device like this, and you could listen to everything. I would have been like, how are
Well,
you
there's
going to
a
get all the records in there?
yeah, there's a classic kind of little meme or gift where the old like the 80s office environment
Yeah.
with I don't know, you got fax machines, phones, everything, printers, all sorts of devices, and then it kind of goes down to a laptop,
Yeah.
and you can do everything on a laptop or
Yeah.
even to a phone now.
Yeah, yeah, you can
Um,
do so much on your phone
so yeah,
anymore.
everything's accessible, everything's compact and mobile.
It's and yet we're still confused.
That's it. I think the people have not kept up with the technology almost. It's
Yeah.
and there's always going to be that generation of not who don't embrace the next big thing.
Yeah.
There's always that generation that come through where it's just the norm. Like to my kids, using YouTube, Spotify,
Yeah.
accessing schoolwork on the web is
Yeah.
just that's the norm. They don't understand anything or they don't
Yeah.
know any different.
Well, that's what mine's doing right now, That's what
Mm,
he's doing. He's doing
yeah.
he's homeschooling, he's doing that, we're doing this. Um, so what were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and then how did you overcome them?
Um, in general, or in the world
Uh,
of
in
IT,
in the world of IT, but you know what? Pick which one's more interesting.
it,
No.
in the world of IT, it's having the conviction to go with a solution that there's so many products and solutions for any issue.
Mhm.
So which vendor do you go with? Which actual product do you go with? Is that set up? And that's part of one of the challenges is understanding our clients' needs and how their business operates to then fine tune the solutions stack that we put in place for them. And so we recommend product X for email security, for example, because you're sending large files, you're sending encrypted messages, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's picking that's the challenge really is becoming ingrained in the client's business and understanding how they operate and their needs and requirements to then personalize the solutions.
Have you How is that process like, or what's that process like? Is it, because that would be really client relationship development, right? They need to understand their own problems, and if they don't, then you have to explain it to them and say, "Hey, here's what you need." Do you find that difficult or is that easy?
Um, that's the difficulty. That's the challenge is not going into a client trying to sell something
Mhm.
straight off. It's listening, understanding the pain points really. People like to talk about their frustrations,
Yeah.
especially with IT.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so that's the key is to listen and get a good thorough understanding of what is it that they're trying to achieve, what issues they're encountering, and then almost like you say, developing that relationship to become a strategic partner rather than a client vendor.
Right. That that process of doing that takes time. Is there do you guys have any type of strategy for that to accelerate that process? Or is it do you find that it just kind of takes a certain amount of time, like XYZ time, and then we can
It varies. It varies by industry,
right,
how complex. Obviously, different businesses have their own timelines that they need something in place quickly.
right.
Um, so it varies by business and by industry.
And I would imagine too, whoever you're talking to on the other end, they would have to if they understand what the problem is, and they're probably much more likely to move fast and make, uh, but it's always that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably run into say, "Oh no, we got a guy that can understand all this stuff, and he doesn't know anything about what he's supposed to know
A
about."
lot of yeah, the person who does our IT
Yeah,
said we need this,
yeah, did he?
and we're like, okay, that best intentions, and yeah, I guess we do it as well, but we try and look at the bigger picture.
Right.
We've got a national network of CMIT Solutions where we can tap into those resources, and
Yeah.
like I say, we've got multiple solutions, not just a single product for each
Yeah.
problem.
And I guess you could always do the Dr. Phil question and be like, "Oh, really? Did he say that?" Like, "Well, how's that been working out for you?"
Hmm.
It's like, obviously you don't need us then if you got this guy and he
Yeah.
said this is what well, why isn't he doing it? Where is he? Did he take the day off? Where
So
is
what?
he?
So what do you need us for? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, um, so now again, you're from the UK, you came over here, and so when you got into this, the turning point, where was the moment that you realized doing this, you're like, "Hey, this is I can do this. This is what I can do. I can support myself, my family with this. This is what I'm gonna do." Right? What was that point and what was it like?
So we started a independent IT company, and then coming up to the end of a visa process,
Mhm.
where you apply for a new visa and go through all that. Um, it was it was quite an upheaval. We ended up back in the UK for a few months, so I
Right.
was working in the UK, but on the business here. And then while we were waiting for our visa to be processed and then ultimately approved to enable us to come back, and that was when that was approved. It was like, okay, this is this is it now. Like, and it wasn't that we'd achieved the goal. It was the kind of green light to then let's make something of this. Let's
Right.
let's develop it, and we've been given the go ahead to then grow the business and provide a good service to a lot of businesses.
Right. That's fantastic, man. That's just and that's kind of dedication to the cause, right? I mean, you didn't have to come back. You could have just stayed, but it's like you wanted to be here, you wanted to do that. And, that shows heart, man. That shows determination. And I'm
And
glad
it's
you're here,
sunny
right?
most of
Yeah.
the time.
It's like I was and it was my next question is and what why Wilmington? You could go anywhere in the States or anywhere in the world, right? It's like I believe in the UK, I'm going somewhere. And I were you in the UK going, that Wilmington, North Carolina is awesome.
No, never even heard. And kind of we applied to a program initially, and this is going back to pre IT business, where we knew we knew we'd end up in North Carolina, but that could be anywhere.
Right.
We just happened to be placed or offered a position,
Oh
on
man,
the
you got
coast, and it's
yeah.
like, wow.
Well, and Wilmington's a great place too, especially for entrepreneurial endeavors, right? There's a huge, I mean, there's a lot of funding here for it. There's a lot of, what do you call them, incubators as far as
Hmm.
helping people get off the ground and whatnot. They have the SBA, they have the Cape Fear College stuff where they'll help you do that. So it really is entrepreneurial friendly in that sense. And then now, like being in the network or in the group, you have all these now you can connect with all these other people who kind of help you. You can speed ramp it, if
Hmm.
you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And to start across the pond and then, with the idea and with the intention to come over here and then just to hit the ground running and having already a little bit of it wasn't like you were starting over from scratch. I mean, you had some skin in the game before. There was,
Yeah.
you know, uh so you had some kind of people on the
It
ground.
was a secondary
Right.
role or like a side. I want to say side hustle, but that's probably not the right not the right term.
So how did that become the main thing then?
So it was the visa process.
Oh,
We
okay,
we
so you're
moved
just
from a teaching visa over to a business investor
okay,
visa.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, then that kind of pairs with personal sacrifices. What have you had to give up, and how did that impact your journey? I guess you had to give up, UK weather for this.
Yeah, unfortunately,
It's like, oh man.
missed the rain. Um, we so family, I guess, is so friends and family back in the UK.
Right.
Um, but also would never have made the friends that we've got here. Like
Sure.
people who I would now class as close as family.
Right.
Um, who've kind of helped us out tremendously, but and just been just awesome people. And
Yeah.
there's the wider community. I've never felt even going back to Liverpool. Like we talked, I moved away for college. I kind of stayed when I went into work after college. I never actually moved back to Liverpool. I didn't have that. That's where I belong. That's I didn't have that draw back to home. But Wilmington, coastal North Carolina, I did when we were away from here. It was like that's where I want to be. That's
Yeah.
where, and as a family, we felt that to totally blow that out of the water. When we moved back from the UK, we ended up moving to Charlotte.
Right.
Um, with a view, it was on me. Family didn't really want to move, um, but for the business interests, we're
Right.
like, okay, bigger market,
Yeah, Charlotte is
metropolitan area,
huge market.
um, more competitive, granted, but we thought, and my business partner was there, and we moved to South Carolina, just over the border in
Mhm.
South Carolina from Charlotte,
But TKK?
near Fort Mill. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My wife
That's a
actually
pretty
worked
big
at
area too.
TKK
Yeah.
Elementary School, so
Did you really?
yeah.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, we moved to South Carolina near Charlotte for 2 years. Um, the family reluctantly, and we just didn't settle. It was all we were back here pretty much one weekend a month,
right.
if not more. Traveling a lot, just visiting family, visiting the area, not family, friends.
Right.
Um, and then the now business partner who started CMIT Solutions in Wilmington
Yeah.
um, contacted us to see if we would like to join forces, merge, acquire, um, and that then gave me the family opportunity to move back to the
Right.
region. And it was like, yes, it was brilliant for the business, awesome personally as well. So it's like, yeah, wow, it was a no brainer.
Yeah. And I mean, Charlotte's okay, but there's something about Wilmington that is attractive, you know? I mean, we have we have decent beaches. We have a really good downtown, you know, you got the river, there's parks, it's microbreweries all over the place. I
Mm.
mean, if you there's something for everybody. It's all there are sports here that I didn't think there would be. Like ice hockey, there's ice hockey here. Like we're on the coast. Like why is there ice
Yeah.
hockey? But there's so many people from the north, right? New Jersey, New York, and just um, north of the Mason Dixon line where hockey is their thing,
Hmm.
and they came down, and now there's
Yeah.
hockey. You know, the thing that they complain about is that they say there's no good bread down here in the South because they're used to a certain. You know, they want bagels or they want something like we can't get good bagels down here. Everybody's got biscuits. It's like we're in the South. Like, open up a shop then. Um, so customer impact story. Share something with us where your product or service made a significant impact on a customer. And I'm sure there's probably a handful of those.
Yeah. I think the majority of clients and businesses contact us or we were introduced because there's an issue,
Right.
because they're experiencing some trouble or an incident happens and it's like, oh, so we come in often when there's a problem to be solved.
Right.
Um, which is good to go in, solve that problem, but we're not the break fix solution. We
Mhm.
we treat that as really an introduction and yes, we will problem solve and we'll troubleshoot. But then to grow that relationship, um, and then make take their business help them take their business to the next level with regards to whether that's security, compliance, or just productivity. Just
Right.
are you in the best place technology wise to achieve your goals?
So that's interesting. I didn't I was not aware that you guys handled it like that. You're looking at it more globally and not so much establishing uh transactional relationship with the customers. Of course, there's a transaction, but you want to help them. It's more transformational. Like you want to partner with them and make sure that they're taken care of over the long term.
It's very much a long term relationship. Yeah,
So, if, with that being the case, then what is your like the perfect avatar? Because what you guys do, like super large companies have IT departments built in, right? So you guys are, and, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're kind of an outsourced IT solutions
exactly.
package,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then, who are your clients? Like, what is the like that sweet spot for like your perfect client?
So, like you say, that bigger companies have an internal IT department.
Hmm.
Um, we are kind of our sweet spot target partner is just below that line of big enough to need an IT department, but not big enough that they could justify employing a
Yeah,
department or having a
right.
whole department in house. So somebody that, and quite often, like we said before, it's somebody in that business has taken on the IT role
And then they're like,
just
huh,
because they
yeah,
fixed a printer one time. They're like, oh,
sure,
he can sort IT, and that's how I probably did it when I was in school.
right.
Oh, Dave's good with,
He's good with
yeah,
that. He knows that.
my screen's not working. Ask Dave to like. So yeah,
It's like,
I was often pulled out of classrooms,
yeah.
like my own class, to go and fix
What?
something else. It's like, yeah.
Oh,
And then my role in school evolved into being the IT coordinator. Like so,
it's
it
got to be pretty cool though.
it worked out. It worked out well for me. Yeah.
Because at some point, like the 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 negative side of that is that you're whenever you show up, everybody's already frustrated, and so and they're expecting you to make. But the positive side is you solve the problem, and then they love you. It's like, oh, Dave's here; he can solve the problem. Awesome.
It's like almost
It
superhero
get,
esque. Yeah. It's like,
it's got its ups and downs, right? You got some pros, some cons,
oh yeah,
but it's always good to be the person who saves the day.
yeah, provided we can.
Yeah,
Yeah. And if we can't, there's always a plan. We will.
right.
I think that's what sets us apart. Is that we once we. And I'm not going to go into like specific client information, but we once we're involved,
Yeah,
we'll see it through.
yeah,
We
yeah.
won't say, "Yeah, we can't do that," and walk away. We'll at least either whether that's through a referral partner or we get deeper into it
Right.
and kind of maybe move outside of our wheelhouse. That's
But you're
we're guilty of that as well.
but you get but you know what though? That is I had a job where we were similar. We had certain things that we did, but we were regularly, routinely asked to just do stuff that was outside of the norm. And we just if we could do it, we would always
Mm,
do it. And what that does is it adheres those clients to you because nobody else will do that. That's
yeah,
why they're asking you to do it. And then if you can go, especially if it's like if it's not a whole lot, like if it's not a whole lot of time and energy for you to do it, and you're like, oh, you this won't take me long, and they'll love it, and it's like
yeah.
they think it's like this huge deal, but it's not really a big deal for me.
So the biggest thing is when we send any of the team on site,
Mhm.
we do a lot of things remotely, like over online or even talking to you over the phone. But when we send someone on site, it's always another member of staff will be, oh, while you're here, could you take a look at this? So that
Yeah,
they go for one ticket that might take 30 minutes,
yeah,
but then end up staying for a couple of hours and solving three or four things that have just been, well, it's not where I'm not going to trouble the IT people with that.
yeah,
But oh, seems as you're here,
yeah. You're here.
could you take a look at this for me? And things evolve, and sometimes you get deeper into the weeds with things, and it turns into a bigger project, which ultimately is good
Yeah, because it solves their
for everyone.
problems and it develops a customer relationship,
Yeah.
right? And then your guys get to also like prove to the customer, like, yeah, you made the right choice calling us.
Hmm.
Um, that's awesome, man. Look at that, almost halfway.
Yeah.
How about this? The impact of failure. Have there been any failures uh, that at the time you would have been like, man, it's a failure, but now you see as a blessing in disguise?
I think every incident that we've had where things were maybe not configured correctly,
Hmm.
and thankfully there's not been anything major or too disastrous. But that you're only one email or one click away from
Yeah.
something happening. So I'm not going to tempt. I probably just have tempted
Right.
fate there.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's like a learning opportunity,
Yeah.
and we're constantly the whole IT landscape is constantly evolving, and we try and stay on that curve, not ahead of it. We don't want to be take AI for example.
Yeah.
It's still relatively new. We
Yep.
don't want to. We're not gonna push it on anybody because we're not using it and it's not ingrained in
Not
what we
yet.
do.
It's still in its nascency. And then if you like the thing about being the razor's edge is that you have the the unique opportunity to get burned really fast
Hmm.
if you don't understand something, you know? And so I like the approach that you guys are talking about. It's like, when, I'm not going to push it if it's not the thing to be pushed, you know, because there's so much more that we don't truly understand about how to integrate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think Einstein said it's like our technology has evolved past the point where we can understand it,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where we're at with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
There's
we're
a
going to have to catch up.
there's a lot of new gimmicky things as well that there's constant things coming out that there's no longevity to it.
Right.
And yeah, it's cool, but is it really going to have an impact?
Yeah.
And I would
Eh,
say, yeah, gimmicks is probably the.
Well, remember the laser disc,
Hmm.
right? And then we're like, oh, it's the laser disc and
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah. And then Blu-ray. In Blu-ray, it's like, I already have a CD.
it's
Why do I have
always
to
the
have
next
another?
big thing, and
It's
some
like,
things get bypassed. Yeah.
I mean, I can see going from cassette tape from 8 track because you could get more on it and it was smaller. But, and yeah, because like, I don't know if you had uh, the 8 track cassette players uh, back in the day. Do you remember those?
I had it. Yeah,
Yeah.
cassettes.
So, because then you got this whole box full of stuff all over the car,
Mm.
but then the cassettes came along. It was smaller, more portable, more information on it. Um, and then it went from that to CD. And I kept look. This is why Gen X is so mad because like we had to go from records to 8 tracks to cassettes to CDs, and then MP3 digital, and now everything's streaming. And so if the internet
But
goes down,
what's my 16-year-old got for a birthday? A record player and a load of vinyl records.
this is good.
It goes full circle.
This is good, right? I had 3 turntables, I had a record collection. I mean, it was the length of that wall,
Mm.
right? That's how many records I had. And when I moved from, uh, the Kernersville area down here, I was like, "I'm not taking all that stuff with me." So I had 70s rock and roll and jazz. I had all kinds of jazz records. I had, like, beach music, all this 70s funk and funkadelic stuff, like, weird stuff that nobody's heard before. I had, like, all this, like, Latin, jazz that like a lot of my friends that I haven't heard before. But I was part of what I did. I was one of the bands I was in. I was the DJ, so I had like all this
Yeah.
stuff going on in the background. And I'm like, oh man, I can't take all this stuff, especially when I can get everything here. I was like, it just doesn't make sense. And I don't have time to enjoy it and listen to it like I did before. But there's something about getting the record, taking the sleeve out, looking
Hmm.
at the if it opens up, looking at the inner sleeve and the
It's the
lyrics and
artwork, and that's
and
that's
all of
why.
that
Yeah,
stuff,
the
and
artwork, the sleeves.
and it's tangible, you can hold it in your hand
Yeah.
and you know putting the needle on and hearing the hiss. I mean, like for guys like us, that's like nostalgic.
Hmm.
And now for your daughter, she has that too. So
Yeah.
it's like, now I'm gonna have to go get a record player.
We've done the
um,
same with DVDs. We
yeah,
we have a stack of DVDs in the house. We don't have a DVD player.
right.
The kids have got one in, the back seat of the car type thing. Um, but with the current, like the recent storms and things, the internet was down in our house,
Yeah.
so
So you
the
need
TV
something.
doesn't work, Spotify's not working, all the echoes and all these devices,
Yep.
the defunct like
Yeah.
the. So we were like, oh, we need to get a DVD player. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, like, we're going. we're going back. Like it's
Yeah,
all
yeah, we're going back to the Stone Age.
yeah.
Um, unexpected success. Has there been a moment of unexpected success or recognition that took you by surprise?
Um, I think unexpected success is just how how much we've grown and how and if I'm in the day-to-day running of the business and
Yeah,
operations, and I think taking a step back and going, okay, and it comes down to when you look at like a financial review from of the last 12 months, we're like, wow, that's how much we've grown.
yeah,
And it's not necessarily the bottom line, but it's look how many more businesses we've engaged with, how much more impact we're having, and almost looking at okay, our stack, our solutions has evolved into we're in a much better place security wise and confidence to offer security solutions
right,
than we were. So I think the success really is when you recognizing that is when you step back and go, okay, we have had an impact, we have grown, and we're doing something right.
right.
Yeah.
On that line, how what do you think is the key to that growth? Like, do you think it's acquiring new customers? It's part of it. It's always part of it is getting new customers, or do you think it's more um, getting more value out of your current customers?
Very much both.
Yeah.
And that's a strategy that we've got now is yes, it's always good to meet new people and get involved with new businesses and but we've got a duty of care to our existing clients as well.
Hmm.
And also to get them into a like I said, the landscape is constantly evolving.
Right.
Their business hopefully their businesses are growing, so their needs change. So it's keeping on top of just because it was a good solution 12 months, 6 months ago
Yeah.
doesn't mean
Right.
and also looking towards the future as well. So what's their plans? Are they opening a second office? Are they relocating? Are they downsizing maybe? Like how what are we planning for? So it's getting into those kind of conversations um, with existing clients, not always upselling. I think that's the wrong attitude to go into a review. Um,
Right.
yes, it's from a business point of view, it's nice, and there is an element of that, but also just to how are we going to best support you as a business?
Right. Yeah. And that's, I mean, if yeah, you could take upsell and just change the wording there. It's like I'm not upselling you. Like this is something that you're going to need,
Yeah.
you know. And then it just becomes, the process of guiding that client or customer to say, okay, your needs are this. This is the thing that you need. So it's not really an upsell. I'm fulfilling your needs, right?
Hmm.
I mean, an upsell to the way I would define it is something that is like above and beyond what you need, and then you're trying to get me to buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's different from just meeting my needs.
Hmm.
Um, which and I don't like that when people try to do that. I'm like, my needs already met. Like you've already met my need. Stop there.
Yeah.
You know, offer it. You can make an offer without trying an upsell. You can say, so for you, for example, it's like, oh, hey, you're here now. If you plan on going from here to here, your needs are going to change, and you will need this extra stuff or the extra service or whatever.
Yeah.
And but that's an easy fit, right? Because if they're growing, they'll somebody who's aware of that is going to know that and be like, oh
We
yeah,
use the term future proofing a lot
yeah.
with
Oh, I like that. I like that.
putting hardware in. Okay, is this might suit your needs now
Hmm.
if you've got X gigabytes of data on your server. So this replacement server is going to fit your needs now, but is it going to last you 5, 8, 10 years?
Right.
So it's almost we use future proofing is kind of making it red. It might not be what you need today,
Yeah.
but if you're looking to grow and data size is always growing, there's a data crunch happening
Oh, dude.
where people are running out of
I
space
did on this
constantly. Yeah.
because I've done so much video on this and video editing and flipping out that that hard drive on this just got full and
Hmm.
I couldn't export anything and I was like, and the when I did this, the person that sold me the machine was like, because you're going to run out of data. And I was like, I have 2 terabyte hard drives. I'm good, right?
2 terabyte when you're doing high quality video.
Yeah, it's
Two
like when
terabytes doesn't go very far.
well, it went far enough
Mm,
because I'm gonna take this. I'll do this, and as soon as I get something done, I just shift it over. So then all the memory on here is empty again,
yeah,
so I can
yeah.
store it because I have to have it on this machine so I can kind of just go back and forth, do
Hmm.
it again. As soon as I'm done, I'm like off you go because I need the space. Um, well, for me to future proof that, what do I need? Like, because a terabyte's pretty big, man.
If you've got a system of archiving,
Yeah,
that's fine. You okay, clear it onto an external
yeah,
because it's not gonna you don't need it to be readily
yeah,
accessible. It's just an archive.
yeah,
Um, but if it's those people who had a decent amount of space and it gradually crept up over a few years, and it's like, oh, now I'm full, and
yeah. If
I don't have a
right,
system, I don't have a process
yeah,
to where I'm keeping that space freed up.
right.
That's some of the things that we do as well.
Um, because I know, like, the thing that takes up all the space is I take a long piece. Like, this would be roughly an hour, and I'll take that and I chop it all up. So then I have the long piece, and then I get all these other chopped ups, and it's all edited and this and that,
Yeah.
and it just takes everything up. I don't need all that stuff. Once that stuff hits social media, I'm done. So I can, but I do need the original,
Hmm.
format, the original long format. As long as I have that, right, I can go back and get what I want from it. But I don't know, 3, 400, like, I say it was everywhere, and I was like, and this is telling me, "You can't do that, you have no space," and I was like, "Of course I don't have space." I plug in the hard drive, I was like, "Now I have space." Um, the emotional journey, when was a moment where you felt on top of the world, and then another moment where you felt like bottom of the well?
um. Wow.
Good question.
Yeah. It makes you think. Is a good question. So yeah, I think we had before we when we were in Charlotte and we had the business in Wilmington.
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily a commute, but it was traveling back and forward quite a bit,
That's a
which kind of took its toll. Long days,
yeah,
a lot of hours on the road, either early or late at night to
yeah.
not eat into that work day. Um,
Which sucks. I've done that from
s-
here to Charlotte and back in a
yeah,
day. I've done it.
and 74 is not the
It's
most
terrible.
interesting
It
drive in
is
the
a
world.
terrible drive. That's why
Yeah.
podcasts and like stuff on, we listen to something on those drives. But I don't like 74. It stops. There's too many stop and starts. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yes, yes, I
I
know the
mean, it's
road
not
all too
terrible.
well.
It's I think it's better. It's not as frustrating as going like from uh, that stretch of 40 that goes in between Greensboro and Raleigh with all the because I don't even know if that's done yet. That's like the project that'll never get
Yeah.
done. But it just or any time of the day around that Raleigh belt loop. It's like all of that. Raleigh, get it together, man. Like I
Well,
hate driving there.
we did a family cross country road trip, and we were getting on, had the GPS going, and we were I think it was middle of Kansas somewhere, and it's like continue straight for 300 miles,
Yeah.
and it's like that was more interesting a drive than US 74. Like
Yeah.
I would rather, and it was just one straight road.
And it's flat.
Yeah,
And there's like it's
but there
just
was at least a few interesting things to look. I don't know what it is about that journey between Charlotte and here, but yeah,
well, this is why the Europeans made the Autobahn, right? And it wasn't straight. They curved it on purpose and you can go fast,
mm,
you know? And because the scenery is there, it's interesting. You're not just going like in a robotic straight line, which is that's not necessarily a bad thing if it's interesting. If there's something there that as you're driving,
yeah.
you can take in some kind of scenery. But you're right. That thing from here to Charlotte and back is just it's not interesting. It is it's like the amount of interruptions in your flow is concerning,
Yeah.
and it just unless you're a more patient person than I am.
You just can't get into getting into a rhythm is probably the wrong way to describe
Well, it
driving, but
is. The
it's
rhythm is
you
right when
can't
you get
settle
up to
into
your
the
cruising
journey and it's
speed, like
yeah,
you get up, oh, okay, I'm cruising. It's like, oh, and I have to slow down and stop.
yeah.
and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna stop again. And so it's always this. You can never hit cruising altitude and just cruise.
Hmm.
You know, like but before too long, you just have to. There's a light, and then you got to do 35 miles an hour through some little town or hamlet, and it's like it's just long enough to just irritate the ever living. And then you can go 65 or 75 again just for about 4 miles. And then there's another town. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like, why do they do this? um, yeah, I get
So
it.
that was a frustrating time. I, pro- I don't think I'd describe it as a low, but that was definitely took its toll.
Yeah.
Um, Again, like early and late night driving, not eating into the workday because those things still happened. I was taking like conference calls while I was in the car and things like that. It was,
Oh,
but we knew there was an end goal. We knew we were coming back to the region. We knew that once we hit the ground here, we can like get to
yeah.
work and it would all like play out. So it was a short term frustration or irritation with a long term goal, and the benefit is being here, being ingrained in the community, coming to BNI
Right on.
and being in person,
Yeah.
being present.
Yeah.
That's the key.
What about the high point?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if this is the British like subtlety of it. We
Yeah.
don't tend to kind of
Don't celebrate your victories.
yeah. It's
Stiff
all
upper
the
lip.
stiff upper lip type thing. Yeah. Have we made it? No. Have we done okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I think to be a little bit self-deprecating, it's keeps it humble. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Don't want to brag too much.
don't want to brag. I hope I'm not arrogant or like, and I don't think
No, you're not.
we're far from made it,
Yeah.
and we're ambitious and
Yeah.
we want to grow and things like that. So I think if you get to that point where you think, oh, I'm done, I've achieved everything,
Yeah.
like what's left? So I
Right.
don't think I ever want to get to that point, to be
No.
honest.
No, because oh, man, because if you get to that point, then like what's
What
left?
it, yeah, it's like,
You know? That's kind of what I think Tony Robbins was talking about Robin Williams when he committed suicide. He's like, look, this is a guy who had achieved everything he'd ever wanted to do. And so for him, he's like, what else is there?
it's the next
You
challenge.
know?
Yeah, what is
And
the
then
next
it's like
challenge?
he doesn't have anywhere else to go after that. He's like, so you can't like get into this thing where, yes, set a goal, reach the goal, set a new goal, you know,
Yeah.
branch out here and there. Now, granted, I mean, there was other stuff going on, Robin Williams. I'm not trying to oversimplify that, but it is if you don't feel like you have a purpose, life gets dark,
Hmm.
you know. And being a Brit from the UK, I mean, you I'm certain that the history of, you know, the bombings and this and that, and just that, like we were
I
talking
think
about
it's
Pink.
ingrained in
Yeah,
me.
it's
Yeah.
ingrained. It's like the Pink Floyd song. Yeah, where what was that line? I forget the song, but he says hanging on in quiet desperation is the English way. Like that's where that came from because
Yeah.
those guys were like in the tunnels.
Backs to the wall and
Yeah,
fight or flight kind of
yeah,
thing. What are you
you
going
know.
to do?
And who you got on the radio? You got Churchill and then C.S. Lewis. It's
Hmm.
like, but and then you overcome. And so I think that's part of where that uh, humility comes from.
Hmm.
So it's like it's not the American braggadocio. It's not that uh, the American arrogance that we talked about before. Um, it's a much more reserved. Uh, I don't want to say solitude, but it's resolution.
I think
It's
so. And resilience. I
yes,
think there's a resilience
yeah,
there. I think I am resilient and adaptive. Like
yeah.
we change and just to
Well, you did. I mean, it's
yeah
like the story proves it, right? I mean, you had to go back and forth. You hear it
yeah
went from Charlotte. I mean, so like that's what we've been talking about is the evolution and the demonstration of that resilience.
yeah.
Good stuff, man. Okay, lessons learned. What is a lesson you've learned the hard way, and how has it changed your approach to the business?
Um, know your limitations.
Ah, good one.
Know we are very good and we are experts in some things, but then there's a level of where we can take, and kind of knowing when that, what's that tipping point? Are we now out of our depth? Do we need to pull in and not be afraid to tell the client that
Yeah.
this is, and yeah, we need to bring in somebody else here. Like,
Right.
this is, we need to best support you, to best like get you in the right spot. We need to bring in this person, or we need to refer you on to this person.
Now, was that something that you was that, this realization, did it come as a result of, like, trying to bite off more than you can chew and then having to backtrack, or just realizing, "Wait a second, if I take this step, I'm going out on a limb here. I'm out of my league or out of my depth."
A little. We never actually took the leap into that kind of danger zone
Right.
of
That was
getting in
smart.
too deep,
Yeah.
but it was close. Like, and yeah, we kind of pull it back and go, hang on a minute.
Wait a
It's,
second.
yeah,
We don't
let's.
really do that. We need to get
It's not
somebody else.
the industry to take risks.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Calculated a little bit, but it's not.
Well, because I mean, just security. If you risk something with security and it goes awry, dude, the lawsuits that follow are they'll eat
Yeah.
you up,
Now, quite often with computers and things, there's an edit and undo. There's
Yeah,
always an undo button.
right.
Say always. Some things,
Boop.
you know,
Let
like,
me there, go back.
and not giving too much away, but there's usually a way back
Right.
from something you do.
Yeah,
There's always, can it be rectified? Can
that's
it be
good.
undone? But then the fallout from that could be catastrophic.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely, man. I mean, it could be, an email that was not meant to be broadcast to
mhm,
the whole contact list or something like that, or information getting out, or an update or a change or something like this that goes system wide that is like not necessarily that would take everybody offline,
yeah.
and I'm sure that's happened where
Well, you
you.
see it recently with the likes of CrowdStrike.
Oh
There
yeah.
was a Windows update that wasn't.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't want to say something that's going to get me into trouble
Well,
legally, but I guess that wasn't tested and verified sufficiently, and
yeah.
it was just rolled out. Somebody just approved it.
One of my friends, his son did that. Like he had it came across because he's like a gamer and he was on his laptop and he was like, "Well, I guess I have to do this," and he did it. And I might not be the same thing, but it's the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
It was like a Trojan horse, and it came in the form of an update,
Yeah.
and he didn't know any better, because it looks like an update. So he was like, "Well," and he did it, and it just bricked his computer. Now, granted, his dad's pretty tech savvy with this, so he kind of went back and like
Yeah.
had to clear it out and all that
If you've
stuff.
got the systems in place to be able to revert back to a previous version.
It's still in the registry somewhere, and he has
Yeah.
to and I'm like, "Oh, dude, you have to rootkit that thing now or something," which is for me, that's a pain. I don't like doing that stuff. I'll be like, "Hey, Dave, I don't want to do this. Can you do this?" Because it's a pain. But now, if you're somebody who likes going in and solving problems and getting down and
Mhm.
restoring things, if that's your uh, because it's like playing Tetris with the internals of the programming. You're like, "Oh, I can go here to find this," and it's like you're a detective on the case. Like, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you, and I'm gonna delete you and
I
boot you
love
out.
the Tetris analogy there, because when you've got that block and it's going to make a hole underneath.
Yeah,
That's always going to be there. You're
yeah,
going to have to deal with it sometime.
yeah.
It's not going to disappear,
Nope. So you either get a new machine or you
or
or
you
you
wipe the
call
lot.
yeah, you just call the because you got to reinstall everything. I mean, you have to basically default set it and erase everything and then reinstall everything. And if you're talking about drivers, updates,
So
all that
if you've got a
stuff.
good backup solution in there, you can roll back to a previous version.
There you go, people. That's it. Backup solution. That's what you need. That's a lesson,
Yep.
right? um, behind the scenes. Give us a behind the scenes story about the business that people wouldn't know about, but would find fascinating or at the very least interesting. Like what goes on behind the scenes at CMIT?
Behind the
Is
scenes.
it is it
Wow,
like
where
the movie Wall Street where people were just throwing money?
you wish. um, so there's a British sitcom, TV show called The IT Crowd, and it's, have you seen it?
I haven't watched it, but I've seen it on the thing. It's been on my suggested watch
So
list for a while.
two comedians who then wrote this sitcom, and they work in the whole thing is set in the basement room, which is the IT department. And it's just these two guys, and they have very little interaction, like
Right.
interaction with anyone else in the business.
Yeah.
But the whole 4-story company is running
Right
is relying
out
on
of
these
that
two
basement.
guys, and it is very slapstick like comedy, and but there's a meme that came from that show, which is the guy picking up the phone, and he's there in his jeans and scruffy t-shirt and a mess of a behind him, and the line is, "Hello, IT, have you switched it off and switched it back on
Yeah,
again?"
yeah, yeah,
And that was how they answered the phone. Have
yeah.
you switched it off and switched it back on again? And most
That's
often
awesome.
it was like, "Yep, fixed. There you go." So we do a lot more than rebooting.
Right, right.
It's not all about, but who doesn't need a good reset now and again?
Oh my gosh, dude. The story here, like the one of the jobs I had, I was doing. Uh, we did low voltage alarm installs, right? And we also did audio, video, and ran sound for people. So restaurants and department stores, there's their PA and their speakers. We used to do all
Mm,
that kind of stuff. And at our office, we had a DVR because we kept expensive stuff in the office, so we had cameras watching everything. And then the boss calls us up. He's like, "Hey, the cameras aren't working." And so we go in to the DVR and look behind it, and it's like, well, it's turned off. Like,
mm.
somebody turned it off. Of course,
There's
they're not
there's a
working.
there's a troubleshooting checklist. So does it have power?
Yeah,
Are the lights that should be on
yeah,
lit up?
yeah.
And then, so there is a tran
And
yeah.
it's like,
Sometimes it's the simple things.
and the checklist, usually you'd want to start at the top and go down, right? But our boss, he's passed away now, and we love the guy. I mean, he kept me employed for 14 years,
Mm.
and I was able to put food on the table and whatnot. So I have no beef with this dude. But he used to troubleshoot backwards. He would go back to front with it, and he would work on something and go, "Why isn't this working?" And he would never check to see if there was power. Right? He would just always, that was the last thing he
Sometimes the
checked instead of the
assumption
first. And
you
so,
jump yeah, you jump to step 2 or 3
yeah,
when
and he's
really the fix
and he's
was
in it.
number 1.
And he's tearing stuff apart, and we're like,
So we
"It's
had
working."
the desks that can go up and down
Oh yeah, yeah,
mechanically.
yeah.
So we had a ticket that came in, and I won't name the client, but the issue was that the monitor kept going on and off.
Hmm.
Didn't
The
You
desk
know
went
where
up
this
and
is
it
going?
unplugged it.
So didn't relate that to my monitor goes off when I raise the desk,
Right.
and when I put the desk down, the monitor comes back on.
Yeah.
So the cable going into the monitor at the back was just loose enough
Just me. Yeah.
that when the desk went up, it didn't disconnect completely, so it would
Right.
flicker,
Yeah.
but it would just pull on it enough, and then as it went down, it would push it back in. And the cord was only so long, so
Yeah.
as it went up, and that, yeah, a simple fix, loosen the cord, make sure there's enough flex, and
Yeah.
it was resolved. But it was that kind of, yeah, troubleshooting.
Oh
Whereas
man.
some people would have just gone out and bought a new monitor and
And not,
not
yeah.
even fixed the issue.
Yeah. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given about the business?
Network, meet people, get out there and widen people that
Right.
you talk to, because you never know who could be not necessarily a client, but who can help you in your business, and
Right.
what resources you can tap into,
Exactly. Yeah.
and it goes both ways, like who you could help out, not just IT, but you know,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like the power of one, right? I mean,
absolutely.
you never know who's in your room, or whose room you're in. And is that something that you learned in the UK, or is it something that you learned here, or was it something that came up in the UK and then manifested here?
Very much here.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the UK, I was the IT crowd
Right.
guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
just in a room in a box.
Yeah. It was
Like,
just you. You
yeah,
didn't
just me
have.
communicating virtually with people in the States, but then coming here, and especially now that we're in Wilmington, getting out and being part of the community,
Yeah.
playing that bigger role as a business owner, and yeah, just as a member of the community.
How was that? How has that experience been for you?
Um, it's not something I find very easy. Um, but and it does take a bit. I feel like I'm very introverted.
Yeah,
So going and introducing myself to somebody who I've never met before,
right.
even though it's at a network meeting where that's what everybody's there to do,
Yeah.
still doesn't sit right. And it
It takes some
yeah.
time. I mean, it is its own skill set, you know? I mean, it is its own skill set, and the thing is, like, everybody doesn't have to do it either, you know?
Mhm.
If it's just not your thing, then unless you're trying to force yourself to grow for some
And
reason.
I love those guys who will approach me.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh
And
wow,
like, "Hey, Dave."
I didn't have to go and
Right.
break the ice first. So I try and be approachable, but
Yeah.
also my kind of like awkwardness of, oh, I don't want to talk to him.
No, man.
Like,
Here's the thing. You want people to approach you, just get a shirt that says, "I'm from Liverpool,
it's
birthplace of the Beatles," and then, dude, you'll never have to approach again,
always a
right?
good conversation
Or you
starter.
could be like, "Come talk to me, I'm British," right? Did you know, and you probably do, that, I forget who did this. Somebody did this survey or a poll, and it was like, "What's the sexiest accent on planet Earth?" And it was Brit. It's British,
Really?
yeah, British accents, the most, for especially for American women love the British accent. I think it's universally loved across the globe.
And for the size of the UK, the different accents,
Oh,
like we
yeah.
were saying, West Coast to East Coast was what,
Yeah,
two and a
2 and a
half
half,
hours.
yeah,
My wife is from the Northeast
yeah,
and has a very different accent to me
yeah,
from being from Liverpool. And then obviously you can go 30 minutes down the road to like Manchester accent. We were
yeah,
talking about
totally
Oasis
different,
earlier,
yep.
like the Manchester accent, 30 minutes from Liverpool, totally different. Like, so, and I don't speak the Queen's English, so I get Scottish, Irish, Australian, sometimes South African.
Oh, that South African one is hard to pinpoint, man.
Well, yeah, a lot of it
It's
European influence there.
one that they still have that kinda, German or Dutch guttural type of
Yeah,
stuff in some of their pronunciations, and it's like, the first time I saw, what was that movie? It was the one with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, Lethal Weapon,
Lethal Weapon.
where the dudes from South Africa were in there, and I don't know if those guys were South African or not, but it was just their accents were so weird, and I was like, "Where are these
Yeah.
guys from? That's just the weirdest accent I've ever heard." Well, they pulled it off, and it's probably, don't tell me all those guys are Dutch, because then I'll feel I feel stupid. But it was just still, it's so weird, right?
But Liverpool as a historically is a melting pot of different cultures and people coming together. I guess that there probably is similarities with Wilmington of where it's a port city,
Oh,
a
man.
lot of maritime history, and the influences in Liverpool going back centuries is probably from Irish, Welsh. It's like right on the
Yeah.
Welsh border, and yeah, I'd probably yeah.
Well, it's like I said, you know, I have a buddy from Leeds, and his accent was different, and then I had a friend from London, and hers was
Hmm.
different. And it's like, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you could just go 30 miles up the street,
Yeah.
and people sound totally different, and but you're all from the same country." But what I find amazing too is that this little tiny island, in Northern Europe, influenced the world to such a
It
degree
blows my mind.
that I don't know how
Like
how
how
many how many continents speak English, you know? I mean, there's something to be said for that. Um, let's see. We kind of talked about this a little bit. Well, no, yeah, we did. The evolution of the brand, how has it evolved from the original idea? And are there aspects of it today that you would have never imagined at the start? And I think we kind of touched on that a little bit with like how fast it went, how far it went, the introduction of AI.
Mhm.
Um, but is there anything that stands out, like when you first got started, like that, something you would just never thought that it would be like today?
I think, and we touched on the kind of what we do and what makes us different is we're not the break fix
Yeah,
um, bit company that will just come in, fix a problem, and or you drop your computer off, they fix it and hand it back. And I think that was my initial impression of the IT industry, becoming an MSP, a managed service provider.
right.
That kind of encompasses with a partner. It's not just we said about transactional and relationship, where we're a long term partner, whereas
Yeah,
we become part of the business, not just a one stop shop
right.
that will just fix problems.
Um, well, that's good. I mean, because I think having a relationship that you can go over time, and also you get, I mean, that's more client retention and, ultimately more income, but you're still solving the problem with your clients and then kind of growing with them as they
Yeah.
go. Um, who has supported you the most on this journey and how have they influenced your success?
So CMIT in Wilmington is with as a three co-owners. There's
Right.
myself, um, Chris Mallory, who owns another business, but he was my original business partner. Um,
It's a good guy.
yeah, you know
I
Chris,
know
yeah,
Chris.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, from the beginning, probably wouldn't have ever got into this
Right.
crazy adventure. Is probably the best way I can describe it. If it wasn't for him, um, and kind of backed me personally and professionally. Um, so yeah, indebted to Chris, but also I think we kind of complement each other, professionally as well.
Right.
And then the third owner is David Usher, who
Hmm.
started
Yeah.
CMIT in Wilmington over 10 years ago.
Yep.
Long time partner with Chris as well, and helped me before there was any kind of business relationship. Just just a great guy who
Yeah. Yeah.
helped me start out in the world of IT.
Dave's a good guy too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Those are, yeah. And it just goes to show you, man. I mean, well, and especially here, and we talked about this earlier, is that it's almost not, it's more so who you know, not what you know. Um, and in Wilmington, it's definitely who you know.
hmm
I mean, it plays such a big part of being able to have a successful run at anything down here is being in the right rooms with the right people, making those right connections, for you and whatever your business goals are. But it it kind of goes back to that philosophy of your, like, I forget who said it, but it was like the five monkeys. It's like whoever you hang out, your five closest friends. Some of your five closest friends, I'll show you where you're at and where you're going.
yeah,
And so if you have really good people around you that are helping you and elevating you and kind of pushing you, like, you'll go further faster. And so it is important to gatekeep that, right? Like those people who are closest to you, have the most impact on you or the most influence on you. It's up to you to really vet those people well,
yeah.
and for whatever reason, because I don't want to, I hesitate to say, well, you got lucky with those guys. I think it happened for a reason, and they were the right guys for you,
I would say we got
and you were the
lucky.
right
Right,
guy for
right
them.
place, right time.
Yeah,
But we also had the conviction to go with those when those opportunities came up. We
yeah,
we took them, and maybe that calculated risk come into it as well. Of
right.
like, yeah, some people may not have. It may have been too. It may have been
Too
too risk
timid, or
averse. Yeah,
yeah, and I think all of you guys have complementary personalities and skill sets. You know,
that's a really nice way of putting it.
well, but if you think about it, if you have business partners, right? There's no sense in having a business partner who's exactly like you,
Well, what the last thing you need when you're making business decisions is a yes man.
right?
So someone who's going to challenge
Yeah,
and push, and that's kind of where
right.
we're at.
And
Kind of,
if you're because you need the visionary, but you also need the taskmaster, right? Somebody's going to dream the thing, but he's not going to know how to bring it to fruition. It's like, I can envision this, and then somebody else may go, well, I know how to get us there. you know because uh
have you been part of our management call? Because that sounds very much like what we were talking about there.
but that's what Steve Jobs was, a visionary. Wozniak did all the
Yeah,
it's like tech guys will know that name, but like there were two Steves, you know what I mean? And it's like Woz did all the work. Steve Jobs had the vision, but he was out like taking trips to India and doing mushrooms and LSD and stuff. Sure, he had all this great vision, but if he never met Wozniak, it would be
It
no
wouldn't have
Apple.
happened. Yeah,
You know, I
yeah,
mean, and then when Woz left finally, because Steve just was who he was. It's like, and Woz is still doing his thing. He's still around. He's still him. But it's like there was this convergence of two great minds or two great things together. And it's all Beatles, right? You got McCartney and Lennon, Stones, Jagger and Mick, or Mick and Keith. You know what I mean? So you have these,
it's the old sum of the parts.
yeah,
Is more
um,
valuable, more productive,
yeah.
more yeah.
I mean, uh, Elton John, Bernie Taupin. I mean, there's always very rarely is it ever just a singular person. It takes a team,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the things that if younger business owners or operators coming in, if they can kind of grasp this early on and think about the the end product or the end result first, like start with the end in mind, right?
Hmm.
And then kind of work backwards from there, because that way it'll give you this global picture of kind of what I need in place when I get to certain key points. I didn't do that. I started this on the ground, just running as fast as I could, working 14, 16-hour days for like 8 months straight until I just broke.
Yeah.
Like and I know what that's like.
Yeah.
Well, when you're driving to Charlotte to go back and forth, that's a 16-hour day, dude. I mean,
Mhm.
because you're talking about 7 hours on the road, you know?
And it was I came for a couple of days. It wasn't a daily commute, so I was, but it still took its toll.
Yeah. I mean, um, all right, vision for the future. Where do you see the business going in the next 5 years? What's the dream, and what steps are you taking to get there?
Um, so yeah, a lot of things in the pipeline where we've got those ideas of where we want to go. Um, there's been a lot of, I say, organic growth, which kind of just happened, which is probably not strictly true. It
Right,
has happened because of other actions that has been taken, but to really drive business growth and not just grow the client base, but also our the services that we can offer,
right,
um, higher level, higher levels of cybersecurity and compliance. Try and be that resource for businesses who are in certain industries that are compliance led, and also growing the team. We've got some things in the pipeline I with regards to one of the trickiest things in the IT world is keeping hold of the talent retention of a good technician. Um,
yeah,
there's always the bigger and better company, and you're never going to compete with, I'll use the Google, Microsoft
right,
people. Um, so I would like to embrace that and almost become the conveyor belt
right,
to give people the entry into the IT industry, train them up.
yeah.
I'm probably an educationalist at heart. That's where my background was. Um, so to give people that opportunity, and we're in talks with a couple of colleges and student, like
Oh, that's
offering
good.
some student
Yeah, that's
programs
fantastic.
to, and maybe not an internship. It's kind of a work in progress, but knowing full well that if they do move on to a bigger, better things, we've done a good job.
Yeah,
We've done what we set out to do. It's
right.
not as if we're losing them. We're being the springboard and the conveyor
Sure.
belt to.
And on the backside too, they can tell their friends who are coming up in IT, like, hey, go here, because they have a really good training program. They're going to guide you to this and that, whatever. They understand you're probably
Yeah,
going to leave in the future. So they're not gonna, they're going to give you everything they can. Because once you guys get a reputation for farming that, right, then you won't have to worry about good technicians, because you'll probably have
there'll
a
be
good,
somebody else
yeah,
in place, and
coming
that's
in.
why I like the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's a good
it's
idea,
almost
man.
not seeing it as a. It's, I guess, to lose a good technician, turn that into a positive. That, "Oh, we've
Yeah.
set you on your way. Go do
Right.
those go do those great things."
Well,
Like,
and it kind of helps your reputation, because if you're putting good technicians out and they go somewhere else, and they're like, man, this guy shows up and he's like just killing. And then, like, if I don't have to train you to do the job, you show up on day one and you're just killing it.
hmm
Like, dude, where'd you come from? Like, oh man, it's the MIT Solutions. It's like
yeah,
like uh David Hughes taught me this. This is the guy that trained me, and so I mean, you might get a call from somebody going, "Dude, thank you for
Who have you
training these
got?
people." Right? Like you're one of the good ones, Dave. Never stop. Right? It's like
So,
like have the checklist too. It's like I send all my guys out here with a checklist. First one, like, did you turn it on? Turn it on? Right? Is it plugged in?
is it plugged in?
Right. Um, which kind of leads us into this last one here. Last one, landing the plane. Man, we're so close to the end, right? Have you had fun? Has it been
Yes, yes,
enjoyable?
it has been good.
Awesome, man. So the legacy, when people talk about you and your business years from now, what do you want them to say? Uh, and what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Not necessarily for CMIT, but when they say, "Oh, that Dave Hughes, man." Like when it's all said and done, you're like, "I'm done. I retire." Right? Which for you, I know is going to be a long way off because you're not going to retire, man. I can already
I think
tell.
that's well in the future. Yeah.
It'll be like you'll be 80 something years old. It's like
No.
still answering the phone, going, "Did you turn it on and turn it off?"
Restart it.
Yeah.
That'll fix everything. Um, I hope just a nice guy who helped people out and
Yeah.
kind of wanted the best for everybody and friends and I think that's want world peace kind of thing.
Right.
A bit of a fluffy
Yeah,
statement, but
but it sounds cliche, but it's like, it's not cliche if it's true.
yeah, genuinely, I would as far as a legacy, I don't crave that kind of fame and fortune
Right.
like that. I don't. Um, I'd like to grow a successful business.
Right.
That would be the legacy of providing stuff for my family, like
Yeah.
providing like security for my family. Um, got two girls, 16 and 10, 16 and 12. Um, and to give them a good, I feel like done all right so far in the
Yeah.
parenting world. It's never easy, but we're just to give them a good foothold in the world and set them on their way. That's
Yeah.
my aim, and if we can do that through business, then brilliant.
Well, that's, because again, like, uh, nobody ever goes on their deathbed and they say, "Dave, you know what, man? I should have worked more overtime. I should have made more trips to Charlotte and back."
Yeah,
Say, they, nobody ever says that, right? What do they always say? They're usually always saying something like, "I wish I had more time. I wish I told this person I loved them. I wish I spent more time with my kids." Anything like that. And so, for um, and just having this conversation with Morgan on Monday is that kind of the older you get, like when you get to a point where you can kind of see the end of the roller coaster ride, then that time from here to there becomes more important.
mm,
Spending time with your family becomes more important. Spending time with the older family that you have who are going to check out at some point, that becomes more important. There comes a point where the time that you spend with people is more valuable than the money that you would make from that time. And if you can, and it changes your perspective, right? You have a perspective shift as soon as you
the
have
time's the
kids.
one finite resource.
Yeah. And we can't get it back. You can make more money. You can
Hmm.
start a new business, right? You can go get a job. We can all these that stuff is replaceable.
Yeah,
To say that that's what you want your legacy to be is not pompous and it's not it's not cliche because what more in life is there?
mm.
You know, you can take everything else away, but those things are important.
It's the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, to make those connections and relationships, friends and family. But in going back to one of the earlier questions, like the sacrifices, that's probably we made a family decision. So there's only our like immediate family here, brother,
Yeah.
dad,
Everybody else is back here.
grandparents, yeah, are all back in the UK, and
Y-
that's probably the sacrifice
Right.
that we've made um, for a a better life,
Yeah.
like for the almost the greater good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And your family will understand that. I hope they do.
they tell us, yeah, it's the best thing, and it is the best thing we've ever done was move. Like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, so
Well, I mean, your parents and your family would want to see you happy. They'd want to see you and your wife happy. They'd want to see you and the family
yeah,
happy. And that's That's their nieces, their granddaughters, they want to see them
And
happy.
we have missed out on birth, deaths, and
Right.
marriages like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that
But you can go, like, that's the thing. Like, you could go
there's
back
yeah, it's
and they
only
could
a
come here.
yeah.
Brother, I thank you, man. It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure, man. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, been
And
good.
um, we'll do it again. We'll do it again, man. What do you like? I want to hear what's going on. The evolution of the process, the evolution of Dave, right? The introvert. Come
You're gonna change
the,
me.
the introvert from Liverpool is now. It's like you know, you're going to see him again, folks. He's going to be here,
I'll be
and
back.
we're going to get him that shirt that says like, "Speak to me, come talk to me. I'm from
Hey, funny you
Liverpool."
say that. I've got a couple of t-shirts, so I might make a show on it being
Yeah,
I
yeah.
once I
Next time,
yeah.
do it, David. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
brother. And all right, people, you heard it here first. We're going to see David again, and we'll catch you later next time on the Business Builder Podcast.